In this video, I want to show you the most compelling indication I've ever seen that Tekken 7 has gradually been turned into a pay-to-win video game. But before we get to that, do we agree that the ancient hentai vampire is standing very close to the karate black belt grizzly bear? I think they're standing close to each other, really very close. It's almost some sort of animal sex crime. Oh no. Do you think it's reasonable that if I'm Eliza right here, my mid-attacks should have enough range to hit Kuma? I think that's reasonable, but I'm wrong. I'm not going to beat myself up over it. Logic is of limited use in the real world, if that's still a thing, let alone the world of Tekken. Point being that even standing this close, my instant dive kick 4, which is my best pressure tool with the character, will whiff, and the reason for that is Kuma stands leaning at an angle and dive kicks come down at an angle, and they are the same angle. Two parallel lines, no matter how long, will never cross. And this is only one of the reasons this matchup feels almost completely unwinnable for Eliza. Her best low, which is down 3 clean hit DP2, needs to get a very deep hit on the legs to work. But look at Kuma's legs, they're way behind him. He tucks them in behind his face and paws, and so it's almost impossible to get the clean hit that you need with this low. Your only good wall combo is inconsistent. You can't get good combos off of counter hit down 4. It doesn't help that the bears have long noodly arms that can swat you out of the air when you're jumping and dive kicking. It's very rare, but when I do run into a good bear player online as Eliza, it feels like, I guess, running into a real hungry bear in the forest. It's like, I guess I'm dead. I guess I'm about to die and eat bear dick. Or I guess panda pussy. I used to believe that this was the most unwinnable matchup in the entire game. I even wrote a video about it. It turns out that it is a favorable matchup for the Bears, but it is not at all the most unwinnable matchup in the game, not by a long shot. The reason I can say that with a degree of confidence is I have more numbers. Numbers that I've never seen compiled before, but I think they are very interesting, and I would like to talk about some of them here. So what these numbers are is, when we start an online match these days, there's all of this sort of dumb filigree on the screen right now, you know, aggressiveness A+ or whatever, which it doesn't really mean anything, but at the very top there are some pretty cool numbers. You get the matchup ratio relative of these two characters in percentages, and that's just whenever these two characters play each other in an online match, they log who won, and they use that to build this data. And somebody took all of those numbers and compiled them into a big spreadsheet that I found on the Tekken Reddit. I then lost it, so I don't have it anymore, and I can't link it for you, but it is out there if you search for it, and it is very interesting, so I really recommend that you do. But I took some screenshots and logged like the most important numbers that I wanted to talk about, so we're going to talk about some of them here. And the first image I want to go to is this one. So what this is the top 10 characters by average win rate. So this is divided by all the characters in the roster. It's not one specific matchup against another character. And at the very top we find Lydia. I think when people see that, the first reaction will be, well, she's such a new character that she has that advantage, and this number will probably go down. And I think that's true. I can say for a fact that earlier this week, Lydia had a 56% win rate against Bob, and it's gone down to 55 right now. I'd like to think I have something to do with that, because I've been killing a lot of Lydias with my Bob this week, but who knows. And then Gonryu, Leroy, and so on. And I think a really interesting thing to note about this top 10 list is that out of the top 10 characters, 8 are DLC characters, but even more interesting and even more crazy, the top 6, without an exception, are DLC characters from the last 2 seasons. In other words, being a recent DLC character is an extremely good indication of having a good win rate against all the other characters in the roster. And it made me laugh out loud when I looked at, for example, Leroy, and I tried to see, does he have a single bad matchup in this game? And it turns out he does. He has a bad matchup only against DLC characters who are newer than him, which I thought was really funny. Another interesting thing here is that the characters near the second half, the bottom, Claudio, Anna, and Elisa, aren't typically considered super high tier characters in this game, but they still have some of the best win ratios online of all characters. And this is where, you have to start to speculate about what the numbers actually mean. It's important to realize that this is all matches, so it includes all skill levels from complete beginners to Tekken God Omega, and there are many, many more players at lower ranks, which means that these numbers are skewed towards a more casual play. But it's also, numbers for all matches, so any given match online. I think the most interesting data pretty much you could create on win rates online right now is exactly this, but bracketed by rank. I think that would be very interesting, because if you look at the bottom of the list and you look at some of the worst win rates, you actually find characters like Steve and Jin, who are definitely not considered bad characters at a high rank, but apparently when you look at the entire world of online Tekken as a whole, they tend to lose a lot more often than many other characters. If I had to speculate on why, for example, Claudio and Anna are up here, I think these characters really, really benefit in casual play. They both have powerful, difficult to react to low launchers. Anna from Full Crouch, for example, she also has her down back 3. Claudio with his Starburst, which is easy for him to collect when people aren't very good at, for example, ducking running 2, and then he gets Starburst down 2, and so on. But that would only be my guess. I'm not entirely sure if that's the reason. Now, a question you probably have is, what character has the worst average win rate of all characters in the entire roster? And this is not surprising. I was actually kind of expecting this to be the answer, but it turns out that it's Yoshimitsu, who has an average win rate of 45.72, which is incredibly low. A really interesting thing about that is it means that, going by these numbers, Yoshi is actually a less balanced character than Fakum Lam. He's only balanced, he only has bad balance in the wrong direction. He is worse than Fakum Lam is good, which I thought was really, really sad. And Yoshi also sits on the worst, I talked about this earlier, the worst and most unwinnable matchup in the entire game by these numbers. The worst matchup in the game, as far as I could tell, is Yoshimitsu versus Elisa, and that matchup is 60% in Elisa's favor, which is pretty crazy. I think Yoshimitsu is a weak character in this game, but he's also one of those characters where if he's going to have his unblockable low launchers and all of his crazy heals and teleports and all of that, he can't be too effective, because that would just become way too obnoxious. I think the answer is to make Yoshi less of unorthodox trolly character and bring him back a little bit more to his roots. But one of the main reasons people love Yoshi these days is that he is that crazy, helicopter octopus ninja or whatever. Another question you might have is, who's in the middle then? Who is the most balanced character in the game going by win rates in matchups? And it turns out that it's these two. Noctis and Lars have the numbers closest to 50%, and this is another example where I was kind of I went like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes perfect sense to me, because I feel like both Lars and Noctis right now are neither really, really strong or very weak. They feel balanced. It doesn't mean that I think they have well-rounded or great designs. I think Lars is not well-rounded because he has bad lows and bad counter hits, but then he has very good punishment and very good combos, so he capitalizes on that and manages to do reasonably well anyway. And then Noctis, you can feel that many of his moves, running 1+2, down back 2, down back 1+2, and so on, are kind of cancerous and annoying to play against, but I still think that the average strength, the strength of the character in a balanced sense, is near the middle and very reasonable. And so going forward, I might think about it a little bit like that. Like, is this character strong or weak? Is this, a high tier or low tier character? Well, how do I feel about them relative to sort of Lars and Noctis? A couple of other characters who are very near the middle here include, for example, Bob, Jack 7, and Nina. So not all characters that are fun to play against, but characters that I agree are neither too strong nor too weak, which is probably what we should shoot for when we balance this game. So very, very interesting numbers, and a kind of a number that I haven't really seen before. Like I said earlier, I think that getting this data, but bracketed by rank, because obviously even though Jin and Steve have low win rates overall globally, They're very, very good characters, and I think it's probably because they don't capitalize. It's more difficult to capitalize on their designs when you're playing at a more casual level than if you're very good at the game. And it kind of makes sense when you think about it, because they both have execution associated with them and so on. Let me know what you thought about this. I thought it was very interesting, and let me know how you feel about your own matchups. Is there some sort of nightmare matchup that you have, like me with the Bears, that you just feel is very, very not in your favor? Or the other way around, I personally feel that Eliza completely owns Steve, even though he's a good character. I never have any problem against him because he just cannot really deal with down 4, and he gets counter hit by it all the time when he's swaying and so on. So yeah, very interesting numbers, but I think the big takeaway is these DLC characters really do seem to have some crazy advantages. We already knew that, but we've never really seen it expressed in this way. So I thought it was fascinating. And Oba, if you're out there, if you can get a hold of these numbers and include some interpretations of this in your next set of numbers that you publish for us, that would be really, really great. Thank you to whoever compiled that spreadsheet. By the way, I'm sorry that I don't know your name or have the link right here, but it was a really interesting read. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll see you guys again very soon.